Hi, I'm Lee, and this is NASA Now. Meet the Smog Bloggers, a team of graduate students from the University of Maryland, Baltimore County, that monitor our air quality. And as we celebrate Earth Day, what can you do to make our air cleaner? That's ahead, but first, here's what's happening at NASA Now. A NASA satellite has captured images of areas affected by the Japan tsunami. This before and after image pair from the Advanced Spaceborne Thermal Emission and Reflection Radiometer, that's an instrument on NASA's Terra spacecraft, shows a region of Japan's northeastern coast which was affected by the March 11 tsunami. The image on the left is from August 2008. The right-hand image is from March 14, 2011. When you compare closely, vegetation is no longer visible in the coastal areas, most likely due to the effects of the tsunami. Hey, now let's take a look at the past.
April 22, 1970, Earth Day was established when United States Senator Gaylord Nelson sponsored significant environmental legislation. 41 years later, Earth Day is now observed by more than 500 million people in 175 countries.
As we celebrate Earth Day, what can we do to make our air quality better? Here to share some tips is physics professor and director of the Goddard Earth Science and Technology Center, Dr. Raymond Hoff.
I work on a blog called the Smog Blog, but we do measurements of air quality at the university with students at the university. Smog is shorthand for smoke and fog, and it came from a word that was developed for Los Angeles in the 1950s when they had very dense fog events that had smoke in them, as they called it, smog. But smog now means it's a mixture of pollutants that come from power plants, from cars, from you running your gasoline-powered lawnmower. It's basically pollutants that are in the air. A smog blogger is a graduate student at the University of Maryland, Baltimore County who takes one day a week and follows what's going on in pollution in the United States. So we started this blog as a way for me to train my students. And the students have basically kept it going 24 hours, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. We've been doing it since 2004. We've had 30 million hits on this site. We get about 30,000 hits a week. My group makes measurements in Baltimore. We make them on the ground. We actually physically take filters. We make measurements looking upwards with an instrument called the LiDAR, or it's a laser that points into the atmosphere. That tells us what's happening over Baltimore. It doesn't tell us what's happening over Ohio. So what we do is we use NASA satellites that are going over the planet 24 hours a day and rotating across the country that give us imagery or pictures that look down from space. So the NASA satellites are very important. The two NASA satellites, Terra, the MODIS instrument on Terra, and the MODIS instrument on Aqua, which happen at to come over every site in the United States about 10:30 in your local time. Those two instruments will give us snapshots of wide coverage in the United States. One of the main guiding features is the air pollution bad? So we'll look at EPA's ground monitors, and if one of them is showing orange, which means that it's unhealthy for sensitive groups, or red, which is unhealthy for everybody, we'll look at that as an indicator something's going on there. And then we will go back and look at the imagery and try to find imagery from the NASA satellites that explains why is it bad there. The areas that have been found to be clearly important are asthma, which is a chronic condition, can become very serious and you can go to the hospital. But more recently, people have worried about ozone, which is a gas, affecting breathing in older people and causing heart attacks. And so those are the two major areas where there's been a proven link between air pollution and people's health. I taught a course on global warming, and I asked my students, what are 10 things we could do in Baltimore? They came up with 20. You can carpool. If you put 2 people in a car, the amount of emissions per mile goes down by exactly 2. That's a major change in the amount of pollution just by putting a person in your other seat. On a day that there's bad air quality, don't mow your lawn that day. Wait until it's a windy day and the pollutants will blow away. On Earth Day, what we have to do is to try to personally take responsibility for our future.
Did you know that a car travels on average 20,117 kilometers per year? That's 12,500 miles. And during that time, it emits 387 kilograms of carbon monoxide. That's 854 pounds. It also emits 7,273 kilograms of carbon dioxide. That's 16,034 pounds. Now you know.
Now it's time to check out what's up.
Want to actually see some smog? Look toward the horizon during daylight hours and you can see how much smog is in the air. It is a visible form of air pollution that often appears as a thick haze.
Now it's your turn to make a difference. Your students can monitor the pulse of the planet using the Satellite Meteorology Monitoring Global Climate Content Module.
In this module, students will use data from some of NASA and NOAA's sophisticated environmental and climate monitoring satellites to monitor forest fires and biomass burning. Be sure to look for this great resource in the NASA Explorer Schools virtual campus.
Well, that's it for NASA Now. Be sure to tune in next week when we search for antimatter. We'll see you then on NASA Now.
NASA Now comes to you from the virtual campus at NASA Explorer Schools.